Hi, my name is Jeff Moran. Joining us here today is Michael Kelley. Michael is an art researcher and an expert on Agnes Pelton. She was a modernist in American art. Michael has been instrumental in helping us with cataloging and researching flowering. Today, though, we're here to talk about Agnes Pelton's Sleep, oil on canvas, painted in 1928. Mike, you've been studying Pelton for decades. How did Agnes Pelton enter your life?
This was 1989. I was doing independent research and acquisition for different galleries, and I met a collector who introduced me to Agnes Pelton's work. I facilitated 2 donations that went to the Archives of American Art at the Smithsonian, and I don't know of any other artist that has an archive as rich as that of Agnes Pelton.
So here we have an artist singularly where we can, for example, with Sleep, go down a rabbit hole and, in her own words, know what she was thinking.
Yes.
And the composition behind it.
Yes. She leaves us a lot of information, and yet it gives rise to a multitude of related questions. Like the old saying, everyone loves a mystery.
I'm gonna digress. Let's go back to 1921, New York, Long Island. People labeled her as a recluse because she lived in a windmill for 10 years.
Agnes loved relative seclusion, but she was not a recluse. The windmill was regularly open. Agnes had many visitors. Agnes was highly social. Agnes regularly had her own exhibitions. She would serve tea, music. A lot of times it would be live music. She wanted people to come into her world, whether it was in New York, Long Island, Cathedral City. Her studio guest book from Cathedral City shows clearly lots of visitors.
The paintings that she was most successful with were her portraits, her landscapes. That was really putting her food on the table, correct?
This is the great dilemma for almost every artist. There's my art that I do for its own sake, but then I have to make money. So Agnes made money from portraiture. She understood society portraits, right? She understood, people will pay to have me paint pictures of their children. So this is going on concurrently with the abstractions. And actually, the windmill is where she conceived and painted Sleep.
Can we segue and have you read her notations on Sleep?
Yes. In my experience, this is singular for Agnes. This is the first instance where I've seen on the painting itself an explanatory label providing context. So this says, Sleep by Agnes Pelton. It came to me many years ago after a midwinter visit to the city and was the expression of the sudden quiet and winter peace of the windmill on Long Island, which was then my home, the feeling of rightness in being there, and of a conscious, gentle radiation of protection through dark and uncertain places. Again, singular to find that kind of detailed backstory on the painting itself.
Michael, today in Museum of Modern Art, Agnes Pelton's The Fountains is now hanging next to George O'Keeffe.
Yes.
Rightfully so, because the two of them share more similarity than just space at MoMA, correct?
Mm-hmm. Agnes is several years older than Georgia. They both studied with Arthur Wesley Dow. But the point is that Agnes and Georgia were contemporaries. The big difference is that from almost day one, Georgia had press, representation, promotion that resulted in her commercial success. Agnes had none of that. The closest that Agnes came to having any of that was her relationship with Dane Rudyard.
which takes us to the 1929 Montrose exhibit.
Yes.
One of the most important moments in Agnes Pelton's career was 1929, the Montrose exhibit. It gives me goosebumps. Sleep and flowering both occupied space on the wall.
Yes.
Mike, can you walk us through how that really became a watershed event in
Yes.
Agnes Pelton's career?
Yes. Agnes begins painting the abstractions rather than a hard date of when that happened. It's a transition. The first abstraction is Being, which has its origins back to 1923. Moving forward, Agnes had painted the fountains. So she leaves the windmill, lives in South Pasadena for the better part of a year. On that visit, she brought sleep with her. She had exhibitions at the Grace Nicholson Gallery in Pasadena, and she also showed at Jake Zeitlin's gallery and bookstore in 29.
So in 29, actually the 20s up till 29 was really an exciting time, especially in California, in Los Angeles, in Pasadena. I mean, you have the International Theosophy Society headquartered in Altadena. You have this transcendental movement that I think really Agnes is chasing.
Agnes came here to study with a group called the Glass Hive, and that was the group that was led by a philosopher and a novelist named Will Levington Comfort. Okay. Agnes got here, jumped into that water, said, "Oh, wow, I like this. I want to stay."
Right.
She ended up renting a room from the son of Will Comfort.
How did Agnes get from South Pasadena to what would be her future home in Cathedral City?
Mm-hmm. So Agnes is here through July of 29, and then she goes back to the windmill for about 2 years. Her landlord at the windmill gives her the bad news that she has to go. Rather than come back to South Pasadena, she decides to move to the middle of the desert, Cathedral City. Exactly how Agnes chose Cathedral City officially is not known.
These paintings have survived almost a century, okay?
Yes.
Both of these Peltons, Flowering and Sleep, are both housed in a silver buffed frame, silver washed frame. Can you share with us the significance of her silvered frames, Michael, and just kind of go into there? Because I think there must be something behind those.
This is 100% Agnes. For the abstractions, not the landscapes, but for the abstractions, Agnes had a very defined vision and preference for the frames. Of the 25 or so Pelton abstractions that have come through my hands, they're all this type of frame.
Wow.
But I was not aware until just recently, within the last couple of years, that her reason for choosing this kind of very basic frame was not because she had no money. It's because this is what she felt aesthetically was appropriate for the painting. And what you see here, this is what she wanted.
How do you know that, why is that the case?
There are 2 pastel exhibition schematics that Agnes made. Agnes was very particular about how she wanted her abstractions hung. And in big black letters that she has handwritten at the bottom says, "All silver frames."
Interesting. Okay.
Now what we have is a situation today where if you go to see an Agnes Pelton exhibition, between 40 to 60 Agnes Pelton abstractions, virtually none of them have their original frames. Those frames are gone. They were probably discarded. So this is important that we have this frame. Based on everything I know about how she worked, I believe she personally made those frames. If she did not personally make them, they were made to her precise specifications. The fact that this painting and flowering have surfaced with their original frames is very important for Pelton historically.
In her day, correct me if I'm wrong, but many of her modern works did not sell.
Virtually none of those sold. Very, very few. Agnes considered the abstractions as children. You wouldn't just hand off a child to just anybody. Agnes had strong attachments to some of these pictures. And if she was going to part with an abstraction, one of her children, she wanted to meet you, and she wanted to feel that there was
Some type of connection.
that there was a connection between the person and the painting.
How often do these paintings come up?
Sleep and flowering, these are pictures that are known only from her sketchbook entries, archives where they were exhibited, newspaper reviews. So it is a great thrill to see something like this for the first time. Not all of them have the universal appeal and accessibility as this one. We can all relate to sleep.
Mike, I'm so grateful we can sit down and chat about Pelton's Sleep and really her life and contributions as an artist. We would not be here without you.
Thank you, Chip. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. It's a great honor.